Happy to be here with my very special guest this week, actor Bruce Davison. Bruce, how are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you today, sir?
Doing good, doing good. I know we briefly spoke yesterday and we've been communicating, through email, and I've been really excited to chat with you because ever since I was a kid, I've been like a film and TV nut. And
Mhm.
especially with finding out, how how do you become an actor? Because I grew up in the 90s, so watching shows like, Full House and others that, like took place in California, and I was like, how does someone do that? And since I've started doing this podcast, I've gotten to know more about it. So I
Right.
appreciate you taking the time to, come on and share some stories with me.
Well, guess the easiest way to start is back when I was trying to get into college and I wanted to be an art major. I had started art with something that I had found. I'd done some oil paintings and things, and I wanted to get into that. And my stepfather and my mother were adamant that I got a full rounded education. So I was sent off to Penn State. And while I was there as a Bachelor of Arts degree, I took a, a theater appreciation course. And in that course, we were given little something to read, a little paragraph to memorize and read, because the teacher was a former actor and he was teaching us. And I got something from Arthur Miller. And I remember this in the elective class and everything. I was taking all the other courses that American literature and sunk into Moby Dick and all. And I read this and I memorized it. And I know it to this day. And it changed. That was the moment that changed my life. It was from Arthur Miller. And he was writing and he said, there is a certain, I may paraphrase it a bit, but there is a certain immortality that comes with acting, not through the awards or the books, but through the knowledge that an actor carries with him to his dying day, that on a certain afternoon in a dusty and empty theater, he cast a shadow of a being that was not himself, but a distillation of everything he had ever seen or observed. All the unsingable heart song that the ordinary man may feel but never utter, he gives voice to. And in so doing, he somehow joins the ages. And I said, I want to do that. And
That's
I was
amazing.
I was so lucky years later that I got to work with Arthur Miller on The Crucible, the film The Crucible. I was playing Reverend Paris, and I was scared to death to meet him and talk to him because he sat back there like that, and I thought he's watching me, and it just really scared the hell out of me. And finally, I passed him one day, and he said, that stuff you're doing with Paris, that's good. There's stuff in there I hadn't thought about. And I said, well, thank you, because you're why I'm here in this business. It was because of you. And he says, oh, yeah, I wrote that about Lee. He says, that's in the essays. I'll send that to you. It was Lee J. Cobb, and we were putting together Death of a Salesman, and I was with Elia Kazan, and Mildred Dunnick was finding her part, and Arthur Kennedy was really bopping along, and Lee just sat there mumbling to himself like a lost walrus on a stool. And I said to Kazan, should we get rid of him, get somebody new? He said, give him a chance. And then he said, one day he looked up at the ceiling and he started talking about a crack in the ceiling, and there was no crack in the ceiling, but suddenly there he was. It was the greatest performance. Willie Loman had been discovered, and boom, one of the greatest performances of mid-century American theater. And so, that's how I got in.
That's amazing though, because a lot of people don't get to meet or work with their inspirations or the
Yeah,
ones that ultimately got them.
it was just great to do that. And I've had the opportunity a few times to work with people I had such great admiration of as icons. And, you know, suddenly they're human beings with their own frailties and their own, everything going on. And it's amazing. And I have gotten great advice from some of those famous people. It's been amazing.
And I actually wanted to ask you that because your career has spanned 5 decades and you've worked with, some of the greats, including Lucille Ball in the movie Mame,
Mm-hmm.
which was, if I'm not mistaken, fairly early on in
Yeah.
your career. So,
It was. I was
what?
still just a kid and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. The big mistake in my life was I got a lot of success when I was very young and didn't know what I was doing at all. And I made really stupid, human mistakes at that time. So by the time I was 30, it was all going downhill and I had to recapture things. So I ended up being a character actor instead of this young hot kid suddenly anymore because the De Niro's and the Bill Hurts and everybody else were coming along, and so I ended up playing supporting parts. But I remember with Lucy, it was great because when I first came to Hollywood, I had done a film called Last Summer, and we came out to Loop, and I got to be friends with Dino Martin and her son, and the both of us would be hanging out, and she says, and when I met her, she says, "Well, Desi says you're a good actor, so I'm, you got this." And I said, "Okay." So we did it, and Mame went on for months and months and months, and they spent months in the mud shooting the horse chases and everything. So by the time it got to the older Patrick, I had been waiting around forever. And my first shot was coming in, walking up the stairs, looking at her and hugging her, and Bo had just died, and so I said, "I love you, Auntie Mame," and I hugged her and I walked away. And the director said, "Okay, print." And she said, "I didn't believe it." And I thought, "Oh man, here we go. This is going to be a ride." So I go back down the steps. I'm sitting there waiting for everybody to get ready again. The camera starts rolling. I come up the stairs. I look at her and I see her. And I put my arms around her and I said, "I love you, Auntie May." And I walked away and I heard she was wearing gloves and I heard her go, "I knew you had it in you." So that was Lucy. She was a 5-year-old child and a 50-year-old truck driver combined with one person, and she built Hollywood. She built Desilu Studios. She built the form of comedy that we're still in today. She was one of the great creators of this town.
And there
So
hasn't been anyone like her. You go back and watch I Love Lucy, you watch some of her
yeah,
movies. There's truly only one Lucille Ball. Like no
yeah.
one's really been able to. They did the, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but they did the biopic with
Yes.
Nicole Kidman
Yes. Well,
as Lucy.
Nicole, I got to say, I think Nicole did a brilliant
She did.
job. She was wonderful because I knew Lucy and the hand gestures and everything that she got when she wasn't playing her character. Nicole was on top of it. She was brilliant. It's one of the best performances I've seen. People don't realize certain times when something is really good or when you're playing a trick part and you get all the attention. I remember doing The Elephant Man on Broadway, and everybody said, "Oh God, he's so brilliant! Look, everybody else has all the lines. Everybody else feeds him. Oh, he suffered so. He's never seen a woman. If you could just shake his hand and say, 'It is a pleasure to make you acquainted.' Here he comes now. You don't even need to do anything. You're there." So that's kind of what I think is a trick part. But there are other parts that are really, really difficult. And I would say playing Lucy in that film was one of them. She should have won for that.
Oh, I totally agree. Because I remember when that movie was announced and that she was going to play the part, and
Mhm.
like I had no doubt that she could do it because Nicole Kidman's a great actress,
Hmm.
but to try and capture someone who is iconic as not
Yeah.
just Lucy the character, but Lucille Ball the
Lucy,
person.
the
Yes.
person. That's what I mean. That's acting.
Hmm.
Great acting.
Yeah. So it was a really, really good movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But fast forwarding a little bit further into
Mhm.
your career, you played the role of Senator Kelly in one of the most influential movies of my life, the original X-Men movie.
Oh
So
wow.
I grew up, a huge Marvel fan. Was
Mhm.
introduced to the comic books, and the younger audience that might be watching or listening to this,
Mhm.
like Marvel movies come out like two or three a year now. But
Mhm.
back then, nobody really made comic book movies outside of, like the Christopher Reeve Superman movies or the
Yeah.
Michael Keaton Batmans. So what
Right.
was it like for you being a part of that film?
Well, first of all, I've got to give Brian credit for because he created everything. He was behind every shot. He was brilliant, and when he comes bouncing back, we're going to have a great filmmaker again from the politics that he's involved in now. But Brad Renfro was a young boy that had just done a movie, I think, with Susan Sarandon, and he was playing a lead in this other film that I had done with Joey Mazzello, and it was about two little boys who go down the Mississippi River, kind of Tom Sawyer kind of thing. But I came to that set, and I was just in the last 2 weeks. The director was a friend of mine. I was playing the doctor, and one of the boys dies, and all of that. And I had played Joey Mazzello's father before, and I asked the driver on the way there, what's going on the set. He says, well, this one kid, he's driving everybody crazy, stealing cars, and he's just got a grandmother watching to him. His parents are out of it. He's just running away with this set. He's driving everybody crazy. So I came up, and it was Brad, and Joey came running up to me. He said, "Hey, how are you?" So I gave him a big hug, and Brad came up and he went, "So who the?" And I got him in a headlock, and I said, "Listen, you little sucker. You think you're going to mess with me? I don't care. Nobody's going to fire me or get rid of. But if you cross me, or if you give any trouble to anybody that I see, I'm going to pull your head off. You got it?" And he went, "I got a guitar. You want to see it?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You play?" I said, "Yeah, I play. Let me show you." So this was my relationship with Brad Renfro. When Bryan Singer's movie Apt Pupil came along with Ian McKellen, I was given a call saying Brad Renfro is starring in this movie. He wants you to play his father. So that's how I got connected to Ian and Bryan Singer, and as I always do, as you're sitting around at lunch, you say to the director, "Okay, if something else comes up, give me a call." Well, so that's what happened. I got a call, the first one for X-Men. I was cast before anybody. It was really amazing.
Because you were the first person to be cast.
So I
Wow.
hear. I don't know.
Wow.
Always there's always stories afterwards, but so many people were unknown when that film started too. Were just starting out. I mean, Halle Berry and everybody was just beginning.
Well, what was great about that movie too is that, the X-Men were really popular from not just the comics, but there was a really successful animated series in
Yes.
the 90s. And then
Mm-hmm.
bringing these characters into live action, especially because, the X-Men, what's important about them is that they tell stories of those that, like it's okay to be different, or those that, might look different, or, have different attributes than what we
Yeah.
call normal people. And I
Right.
and I thought, the cast and everything from the cast to the script
Yeah.
really captured that.
Well, yes, there'd be lines like a mother saying to a son, "Have you ever tried not being a mutant?" you know, and it was reflective of human nature. more than it was about special effects. And there were a few wall climbings and there were special effects in that. But what happened is then the genre eventually ran away and just blew everything up. Eventually, there were characters just, as special effects took over the industry, just became, in my mind, kind of a trash heap of wrecking stuff. And the characters faded back into, two dimensions.
Well, and that's what I tell people, like at their core, movies are about characters and stories. The
Mm-hmm.
special effects are there they might be there to enhance something visually, but at your core, it's about the story. It's about the
Yeah.
characters that you get yourself lost in. And that's why I think movies and TV are the greatest art form there is.
Yeah. And but it's always like all art, as things progress on and a new technique is developed, you got something that breaks the mold, and then behind it follow rows and rows of crappy perspective art pictures, of that their generation. But the great artists are the ones that break through and change and are able to resonate in the human heart.
Right. And that's what the purpose of art is, in my opinion, whether it's paintings, whether it's sculptures or film and TV, it's what you feel here
Yes.
because of what comes from here.
Yes. Or as Oscar Wilde said, all art is useless.
That's that's another way to look at it too,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. But also, you're 5 decades later, you're still acting. You've been in the 1923 show, you've been in Ozark, recently, you've got Suitable Flesh, which is a horror film starring Heather Graham.
Which
That
comes out today. I think
mhm,
they Shutter is
yep,
today. Today's the 26th, right?
today's the 25th. So
Oh, it
by
comes
by the
out
time people
tomorrow.
hear this, it'll be
Yeah.
out on Shutter, which is a great platform. If you're a horror fan. So
Well, it's wonderful. And I knew Barbara from back in the beginning when we were all kids together. And before she did a Reanimator, and she produced it. And that was, I love doing independent films because you never know what it's going to be. You're going to be flying by the seat of your pants, but you have an ability to continue creative forces together with other people, and it's more of an even base than something that's a big hit, that's a runaway, or something that's got a lot of monies and you're involved in, that you're just sort of another peg in the wheel.
mhm, another cog in the machine.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, and
remember when the boy that played my son in 1923 said, "Well, maybe they'll save my life as I'm thrown over." But I keep telling him, I said, we're serving the leading character. We're serving the story. It's not our story.
right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And you made a great point about independent film because I've gotten the chance to work on some short films made locally here where I live. I've gotten to run sound. Even got to write and direct a couple of shorts, and
Mhm.
you hit the nail on the head that it's really you learn a lot about the creative process when you have a smaller crew who's there, to, like you said, serve the story, but you learn
Yes,
so much.
and well, everybody serves each other too. It's
Right.
much more of a family than a big runaway conglomerate, multi-billion-dollar production. There's Harrison Ford used to say when he's working on a green screen, "You sure I'm not talking to some? I'm not talking to myself. You're going to put little creatures in here or something." It's not like that. So that's more fun. There was a lot of green screen in X-Men, though. I did that.
Right. Yeah.
And
So what is it that keeps you going as far as acting? Like you said, you've been acting for, over 50 years now. What is
Mhm.
it that keeps you motivated and keeps you doing it? Because if you look at your IMDb, you still have you have credits from, last year, and you've got, I think, what, 7 or 8 that are in the works. So what is it
Mhm.
that keeps you going?
Survival. I mean, it's basically about survival. First of all, character actors don't make what everybody in Hollywood thinks actors make. You know, they're, Tom Cruise and four or five others make all that money, or the executives of the studio, make $100 million a year. But the character actors, the supporting actors, that's blue collar work for most people. That's a lot. So I just have to keep going. I don't know how to do anything else except during COVID. I started painting again, and that's turned out to be a great thing. And that was something I noticed when I worked with Henry Fonda. I did the K Mutiny Court Martial, a play, and Henry was directing. Hank, as he likes people to call him, and he's a terrific artist, wonderful, detailed stuff. And he asked me to show him some of the stuff I did from college. And I said, well, okay. And I brought it in. He said, this is good. Why'd you stop? And I said, well, I knew I could play Rembrandt, but I could never be a Rembrandt. And he said, well, that's what's wrong with your acting, because it's not about the result. It's not about becoming Rembrandt. It's about doing the work, enjoying the journey. Learn how to do it and enjoy the learning while you're there. Be in the present. Don't keep thinking about golden statues and things, because that's not what the joy of work is about. And that rekindled my thought during COVID, and I started up again. So that was what kept me busy through that period of time. That and the strike coming on top of it. So it was 1 year on top of another when we were, hung out to dry.
But you did find, I imagine it had to be another creative outlet, though it's not acting. But you
Yeah,
mentioned, originally wanting to be an art major.
yeah,
That's something that, I'm envious of people that have
yeah.
the ability to paint these beautiful paintings, because I took a couple of painting classes in college too.
Mhm.
And while I don't I know I don't have the talent, but it's still, like you mentioned, it's the creating, it's the
It's the
journey
doing of
that
it.
you're on.
And and there are a lot of, and with the internet, there are so many great teachers out there, and you can learn from them. And I've been enjoying doing that. I've been copying a lot of teachers and stuff. For this guy, I just knocked off too. And but it's there's wonderful things, landscapes and seascapes and all those kind of things that always interested me when I was young. So yeah, that's been fun.
And you hit the nail on the head too, is that, a lot of people, not just in film and TV, but any type of creative outlet, they get into it to try to become a millionaire or a billionaire. But it's not about that. It's about finding what you love,
Yeah,
and it won't feel like work if you truly love it.
no, it's true. And I've had so many ups and downs. On a small independent film, I got nominated for an Academy Award that was like $500 a week to do, and we never thought it would get on the air. It was Longtime Companion, and it was being made for public television, which was real iffy about whether or not it would even play. And then, it turned out to be what it was. And up at Sundance, they kind of went crazy over it. And Sam Goldwyn's company bought it. And, I was on the merry-go-round for that year for a ride out of nowhere. Well, I was upset because I missed out on some multi-million-dollar thing where I could have played Donald Trump, but, nobody saw that. So you never know how it's going to go or what's going to turn out. It's it's uh, it's really a mistake to try to look to future success. Your future success is always in the moment that you're
Mhm.
living it.
Yeah, if you look too far ahead, you won't see what's right in front of you.
Right.
No, you're absolutely right. You mentioned earlier, working with, Lucille Ball and some of the other icons
Mhm.
of the industry, that you
Mhm.
got some great advice. What
Yeah.
advice was that? And do you still carry it with you to this day?
God, well, the beginning of it all. I started this book. I don't know. I got it. All I got is a title for the most part. But I'm being woken up in the middle of the night. And some kid is tagging on me saying, "Bruce, we're ready." And I'm thinking, I don't know where I am. I get up and he's walking down the hall and he's, oh, what's your 24? I got the talent. I would get the escalator. And I realize it's 4 in the morning. I'm in the LA airport. It's completely empty. And I'm going down to the stairways to the conveyor belt. And there is Barbara Rush doing her own makeup. And I'm on this little independent film that she's doing. And she's getting all ready. And I turned to her, I said, Barbara, you ever get confused about what's real and what's not? And she said, oh, darling, it's only real when they say action. That's always that's it. It's only real when they say action. And I there's so much truth to that because I mean, moments that I have had in my own life, saying goodbye, getting my mother to let go when she was dying, then comes into longtime companion, and you're playing it, and it's as important because suddenly you're not in that bedroom alone by yourself. You're sharing it with other people. And I've had more people come up to me and say, yeah, I was in that bedroom too. I know what it's like to have your loved one being told to let go.
Hmm.
So you never know where those moments are going to come from, but it's the consummation of your life. And I remember Burt Lancaster was great. He said, kid, son, you waste all your energy on the long shots. You're performing for the man laying the marks. You're performing for the lighting guy, and then you're performing for the girl extras over there in the corner. Save it for your close up. It's like making love to a woman or whoever you may make love to. I don't know. Don't try to do it all at once. You need foreplay, and your foreplay is the long shots and the wide shots and the cowboy shots. Save it for the close up.
It's a
So
great
that
way
was,
to put it.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I as we start to wrap up here, I did want to ask you a couple more specifics on Suitable Flesh. So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a horror film, and like you
Yes.
said, it's an independent film. So can you talk a little more about, the overall experience of what
Well,
it was like on that film specifically?
it sort of harks back to those '80s Schlockfest films, and it's really a comment on them more than anything. But it's wonderful, and Joe Lynch was part of it all the way back then, and certainly Barbara Crampton. And they created a great script, and it's really fun, and it's built sort of similar to the way Terminator was and those other films. So a lot of people will remember the little Easter eggs that are all placed all through the film, but it's just a drop dead knockout fun roller coaster horror film ride. And you know, I started by being this evil essence that can escape into other bodies. So what happens is all the other actors that go on, I did everybody's lines, and then they sort of memorized that cadence and that thing and that what I was trying to do. And they had to take that character, and then they played themselves, and that as it flipped all over the place. And it's just one hell of a ride. Everybody is brilliant in it, and Heather Graham, she just knocks my socks off. It's the second film I've done with her, but she's really great in this, and so is Barbara, and so is all everybody. Everybody's good. John and Joe
What
Lynch just pulled it all together in such a framework that it's an homage and a fun ride all in the same time. And I think, and it's got like, what is it, 86 on Rotten Tomatoes, which has gotten more than I thought the best picture of the year, which was Origin. Didn't get, but you never know what people are going to like or not. But this, I really smell this is one that if it gets promoted right, people will love it.
You definitely get a lot of promotion from me once it comes out. I'm excited to
Right.
watch it. I've seen the trailer and
Yeah.
it looks great. It looks exactly like you described. It harkens back to those,
Yeah.
80s horror films that have that element of fun. And a lot
Right.
of times that's what you want from a
Yeah.
film is like you want that escapism. You know, if you
Yeah.
have something that's, going on that's wrong in your life, you just watch a fun movie for however
Right.
long it is to escape it.
Yeah. And it's not going to take you to a dark place that's going to necessarily leave you there. It's going
Right.
to take you on a ride. It's a ride, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see it. Uh, do you have any advice that you would give to an aspiring actor?
Oh, learn how to do the dog poo things in your life. Make sure you can pay for your house. Make sure you can pay for your food. Make sure you can take care of your family in any way, whatever way you have to do in the meantime. Because, it's like I was saying, it's like fishing. Sometimes there ain't going to be any fish, and you better be able to survive through those times. So my advice is always have a backup plan, not one that takes away from your dream, but your acting and the filmmaking is a dream, and you can work hard, hard, hard on that, but make sure you can survive too in the meantime.
Absolutely. Do you have a website or social media you'd like to plug so the viewers
You
and
know,
listeners follow you?
no, I get on the somebody set something up for me on Instagram and Facebook, and I have that, but I am really such an idiot. I'm like Shakespeare says, a world grown too wide for his shrunk shank. And all this internet has really got me baffled. Anytime something goes wrong, I have to get my daughter and say, she's 17, and I say, get me out of this mess. Or how do I work
Yeah,
Zoom?
make this work.
Right.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean that I use the socials mostly just to promote this or projects
Well,
that I work on, but
it's the center of PR now. It's the
it
center of the
is.
world for that. It
Hmm.
really is. But after all my time in it, I've done a lot of PR and stuff through the times, but I really don't know how to do it anymore. I've just gotten kind of lazier in my later years.
Oh, it's all good. Well, Bruce, thank you so much for taking the time to have this chat with me. This was great.
Oh, thank you, Derek. It's been a pleasure.